Manifest and latent content relate to what is the literal subject matter against what the underlying meanings of that subject matter could be. Here we have the definitions for each, the manifest content again being the literal subject matter, as in what's visible, what's directly visible, or what's directly audible, and then the latent content being defined as what are the underlying meanings behind what is seen or what is heard. To demonstrate that, I have a few pictures here to show you. So first we'll start with this. Just looking at it, ignoring the whole manifest content, latent content categories or definitions or concepts, if you will. You look at this picture and you say, well, this seems like a young girl with another young girl next to her who is looking back, seems to be a little bit upset or tired or just has had enough, it seems, based on this particular facial expression, and has a cigarette in her hand. Now, that is more latent content than manifest content. Let me just break it down from the manifest content standpoint and then into the latent content standpoint. Remember that manifest content means what is directly visible or directly audible. In this case, there's no sound, so it's what's directly visible. Here, what we see directly is that there is a girl. She is holding something. However, it would be considered latent content to call this a cigarette because we don't know if it's a candy cigarette. We don't know if it's a real cigarette. We don't know if this is marijuana. We don't know what it is. So this is, from the manifest content standpoint, we're looking at a young girl, one arm folded underneath her armpit, holding something, right? And another girl looking in the opposite direction of the first girl. And in the background, there is a figure. We can't say what it is because it's blurred out. And if we were to make interpretations as to what it is, then we're delving into latent content. Now, let's do that. Let's move into latent content and what the underlying meanings could be behind this particular picture. Latent content is up for interpretation. So here, if I wanted to create a story, I could say that this is a young lady. This is her little sister, and in the background is their dad, who is practicing on the stilts because let's say they're part of a traveling circus, and this young lady in the middle here, she's just fed up with the circus life, so now she's smoking a cigarette, or she's has a candy cigarette here in her hand. Little sister is upset that that big sister has this candy cigarette in her hand, and she's looking to her dad, who is way too busy focusing on his circus act, right? So that's latent content. You see how I've taken the picture here, which is manifest content. Again, manifest content being young lady, one arm folded underneath her armpit, holding a candy cigarette, or holding something, I should say, holding something. Another young lady looking in the opposite direction, and a figure in the background. That's it as far as manifest content. Now, in latent content, I'm actually telling a story as far as what is going on here. That's the underlying meaning. And for me, the underlying meaning could be the example that I just gave you. For you, it may be something completely different. It may be that that these two young ladies are, let's say they're not sisters, but they're just friends. The young lady to the right is just not interested. It's not like she's mad or upset or anything. She's just not interested. Young lady in the front is just looking at the camera and just notice something that's there. And in the background, we have a scarecrow just to make sure that everything in the ground stays safe. So latent content, your meaning can be different from my meaning. But manifest content tends often to be agreed upon. So when you think of manifest content, you want to think objective. When you think of latent content, you want to think subjective. The next picture I'll show you is this. Here, from a manifest content standpoint, remember manifest content is what is directly visible or directly audible, right? The literal subject matter. Here, there's nothing to hear, listen to rather. So what you have is a picture, and the manifest content would be man, gloves, maybe you could say receding hairline, people in the background, and that's about it, right? That's about it. Now you probably know that this is O.J. Simpson, but identity can also be considered latent content because we don't know this is indeed O.J. Simpson or if this is an actor playing O.J. Simpson, right? So this, from a manifest content standpoint, all we have is what's directly visible. We see a man, we see people in the background, and we see gloves. Here we see a tag right down below there, right? Now, from a latent content standpoint, we can say that this is O.J. Simpson, there was a trial, he's stretching his fingers out, so it makes it seem as though the gloves are not fitting properly, right? That could be latent content based on my interpretation. Your interpretation could be that this is someone who is trying on gloves, and the tag is just, you see the barcode there. He wants to buy these gloves. He's deciding whether or not he wants to buy these gloves, and the people in the background are hoping that he doesn't buy these gloves because they want a shot at buying these coveted gloves for some reason, right? That could be latent content. One of my students actually recently mentioned something quite funny when it comes to latent content in regards to this picture. She mentioned that this may be someone who, for the first time in his life, counted to the number 10 and is just in disbelief that there are double digits in numbers. So that could certainly be latent content as well. Remember, manifest content is what is directly visible or directly audible, and latent content are the underlying meanings behind that. Last picture I'll show you is this. Here, again, from a manifest content only, what is directly visible, right? And I picked this particular picture for a reason, because you might say, well, there are 50 stars, stripes, and that's not exactly true, because you see the picture is cut off. You don't see 50 stars here. You see less, so you see a combination, right? So you can't say that there are stars here. You can't say that there are stripes here. But you can't give an exact count as far as what the American flag has, rather what the picture has here. Now, the manifest content would end there, because you see red, you see white, you see blue, you see stars, you see stripes, and that's about it when it comes to manifest content here. But the latent content is very, very broad, right? For someone like myself, I might look at this picture and think freedom and opportunity and success and all these different positive things. Other people might look at this picture and say oppression, a dark history, other types of things that could be negative. Now, my latent content is no more right or wrong than somebody else's latent content. It's just the underlying meaning of what this picture represents. And that's the key, what this picture represents. For me, my family, it represents freedom, it represents opportunity, but at the same time I acknowledge that other people's latent content, when they look at this particular picture, it could be something completely different. They could see more of a glass ceiling, they could see oppression, they could see a lot of different negative things. So once again, we'll go back to the definitions here. Remember that manifest content is the literal subject matter, what is directly visible or directly audible. And latent content pertains to the underlying meanings behind that literal subject matter. Thank you very much.